Thank you for joining Wars of the Rosy, and in this video, I'll be reading from the lost word found in the great work, Magnum Opus, by Dr. J.D. Buck, 32nd degree. Addressed to all lovers of truth and helpers of mankind. Forward. It is due to myself, to my publishers, and to my Masonic brethren, as well as to all parties who may be concerned, to say that the following pages were written entirely on my own initiative and without the suggestion of anyone, and that I am therefore entirely and solely responsible for the statements therein made. Having been for more than 40 years an explorer of the secret vaults of Freemasonry, and having at last discovered the lineal key in the possession of one who knows the combination, I desire simply to place this discovery at the disposal of my Masonic brethren, with the suggestion only that they have the same right and the same opportunity which I have had, to examine the evidence for themselves, and then act as seems to them desirable, just, and right. Fraternally, J.D. Buck. What is the lost word? What is it that was lost? Was it merely a word and nothing more? How many are there today who have any definite and satisfactory idea as to what is meant in Freemasonry by the lost word? It would probably be safe to say not one in 1,000. How many of those who have given the subject serious thought and consideration agree in their conclusions? Again, it would be safe to say very few. But why is this uncertainty and confusion concerning the one thing which, above all others, gives meaning or point or significance to the degree of a Master Mason? If assured by competent authority and on legal advice that the lost word has reference to an ancient estate which has been increasing in value for many thousands of years until the distributive share of each Master Mason today is worth $1 million in cash, and that this vast Masonic estate is now ready for distribution as soon as a complete roster of the craft can be authenticated, how many Master Masons would have an interest in the lost word sufficient to see that their names were on the roster? This is too delicate a subject to admit of speculation, lest injustice might be done to the real spirit and genius of modern Freemasonry, as well as to the motives which inspire many individual members of the craft. There is, however, a sufficient reason for general confusion among Masons as to the correct Masonic meaning of the lost word. Sir Albert Pike, our wise and revered Masonic historian, gives us a hint of it in his legends in these words. What is most worth knowing in Masonry is never very openly taught. The symbols are displayed, but they are mute. It is by hints only, and these the least noticeable and apparently insignificant, that the initiate is put upon the track of the hidden secret. It was never intended that the Master Mason should know the meaning of the blue degrees, and no pains were spared to conceal that meaning. Whatever the real cause may be, certain it is that no single subject within the scope of Blue Lodge Masonry has been invested with more of real mysticism and occult uncertainty than is that of the lost word. During the course of his progress through the ceremonies of the Master Mason's degree, each initiate is directly or indirectly informed. 1. That there is a Grand Masonic word. 2. That at the time of the building of King Solomon's temple it was supposed to be in the possession of the Grand Master. 3. That before the temple was completed, some of the craftsmen conspired to compel the Grand Master to give them the word. 4. That on his third and final refusal to give them the word, he was killed. 5. That through his death, the word was lost. 6. That a substitute therefore was adopted, until future ages might find out the right, and the initiate is given that substitute. This substitute, as every Master Mason knows, is a word, in the ordinary sense of the term, which can be pronounced verbally. The question now is, what was it that was lost to Freemasonry and Freemasons by the death of the Grand Master Hiram? Was it a mere word composed of syllables which can be verbalized and pronounced, as can the substitute? Think for a moment. At the time referred to, there were 3 Grand Masters in a Masonic sense who were directly interested in and identified with the building of the temple. These were King Solomon, King Hiram of Tyre, and Hiram Abith. If the thing referred to was a mere word, all 3 of these Grand Masters must have been in possession of it. In that event, it could not have been lost to the craft by the death of but one of them. It would have required the death of all 3 to have lost such a word. To get over this impossible obstacle, the ingenious suggestion has been offered that it was a word of 3 syllables or parts, and that each one of these Grand Masters had one part of it only. In this case, neither one could give it, but it would require all 3. And that this was the reason for the Grand Master's reply that it could not be given except in the presence of the other 2 and himself. The inadequacy of this suggestion becomes apparent when we remember that the very first time these 3 Grand Masters came together and pronounced the word, each one would thereafter know the whole word, and any one of them could thereafter pronounce it. It thus becomes clear that the thing that was lost through the death of the widow's son was not a mere word in the ordinary meaning of the term, because no such mere word could possibly be lost under the conditions which existed at the time of that historical event. There is, however, a consistent meaning for the term word, which has been and still is in use in both Masonry and the great school back of Masonry, and one which meets all the conditions perfectly. This meaning was and is an instruction. At the time referred to, prior thereto, the great school was the source from which the exoteric school of Masonry received the word of instruction in the secret spiritual knowledge of the ages. The widow's son was specially chosen and prepared by the great school, the Great White Lodge, the Brotherhood of Light, to become the spiritual mentor and supreme Grand Master of the exoteric lodge when the temple was completed. Though his untimely death, the plan of the great school for the time being was thawed, and the word of instruction was indeed lost to the exoteric school of Masonry until future ages might find it, and so it remains the lost word to this day. Thank you for watching. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and comment.